Hello, thank you for joining me for my first GI Try DIY video. This is my actual utensil drawer. It was like this for about a year, and today I was inspired actually by another YouTuber, YouTube Essentials. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but in the comments, she said to me, "I'm so happy to hear that you're feeling inspired. Saving money while creating beautiful designs is the best part. Can't wait to see what you create." And it made such a difference to me to really feel like she was like actually looking forward to what I'm doing. If you haven't seen her site, she does the most amazingly beautiful work with stuff that she picks up at, the Dollar Tree, and furniture that she finds on the side of the road and bits and bobs. And so, yeah, I opened my utensil drawer and I was like, I've had enough. I don't have anything that fits in here. I the things that I've bought before, they just slide around. I'm oh, comedy of errors. Here we go. Ready for it? And boom. It's harder than it looks. This is the IKEA N-Het kitchen, and it's designed to be taken apart and moved to like your new apartment. So whenever you move, I'm really fond of it. I think it's great. And I took it apart here so that I could clean it properly. Anyway, I looked at this and I was like, I have cardboard and I have leftover peel and stick wallpaper, and I have skewers, for like toasting marshmallows. So I'm just gonna see what I can do with those things and make this situation better. Is it gonna be perfect? I don't aim for perfect because that's impossible. So instead, my objective is to walk away from any situation having left it in a better situation than it was before. And could an expert do it better? Heck yeah. Do I have an expert on hand? Heck no. So there we go. That's my DIY philosophy. By the way, if you see my cat in the corner, that's Scraps. Do not let her trick you into believing that she is trying to get outside. She's not. What she's trying to do is to get me to do her cat bidding. And for those of you who have cats, you probably know this. She's just saying, "Hey, do what I want." If I open the door for this cat, she's a feral cat. She does go in and out because she would claw off my face if she didn't, and that is a proven fact. So if I let her out of that door right now, she would go around the house and come in through her fully functional cat flap and then hang out in the corner of that door because cats are dastardly, and that's one of the things that we love about them. This piece of cardboard is left over from a box of leftover hardwood flooring that I got from my mother-in-law so that I could put a little loft on my daughter's upper bunk. So this is like doubly left over. It's garbage. It was already secondhand and it's from another project. So take that, recycling bug. Um, Here's my leftover wallpaper. I use this in my bathroom, and I'm just gonna kind of stretch it out. And what I'm doing is I'm covering the cardboard so that it will be more durable. But the cardboard is really floppy, so in a second you're gonna see me bring out some skewers to support that edge. This took me like a really long time crawling around on the floor. Speaking of the floor, it's not gonna occur to me for quite a lot of minutes that I am creating a utensil drawer on the not actually food safe, clean floor. It is not going to occur to me for a while. I'll tell you more or less when I remember this. But in the meantime, I'm just letting you know I am going to wash all this stuff because eventually I will notice this. Scraps left us. I promise she's going to come back later. So, like, what kinds of things do you want to have be better that you can't necessarily afford to hire somebody to do? Because I have these things all over the house. I have two boxes sitting on top of the piano that have been there for like 3 weeks, and my situation might be better if I just put those away, But the brain only allows for so much focus time on a daily basis. And today it is having a lot of fun chatting to you instead. So that's what we're doing. And actually, the boxes are kind of pretty. So they've got like a de-steal thing going to them. Maybe I'll show you a picture later. I'm not measuring anything with a tape measure here. I'm just using, my sort of fingers and eyeballs because perfect doesn't exist. And really, this is a prototype. Like, I'm just testing out to see if my idea can make this better. And if my prototype is functional, then I can replicate my prototype and then I can iterate on it. So is that like a lot of jargon? Yeah, I was in that business for a while. What it means is try, and try again. And every time you try, if it gets worse, learn from it and then do it again. And that's really my philosophy, because in my life and in my work, the opportunities when I've had when I've had the money to be able to pay somebody to do better than me are sort of limited. I love that feeling when you get to that point where you can get somebody professional to help you out. But in the meantime, I can make things a little bit better. So yeah, it's not going to fit on the left. You can't see those edges, but I cut it just a little bit too long, I think. So I'm trying to see if I could just turn it the other way to get it to fit. And this is really the process. It's just looking at things, checking things out, trimming them back, having another look. So here, oh yeah, I just poked a hole in that. So what's happening here is that I got overwhelmed by focusing on the major project, and now my brain is focusing on the minutia to sort of help that feeling of overwhelm go away. So I'm just kind of turning this over in my hands and looking at it and thinking about it. And in a minute, I'm going to get back to the actual project. So I've realized that this piece of cardboard is too big. I need to make it shorter somehow, and I could cut it across the bottom, but if I cut it across the bottom to make it like a short strip, then I think that things could slide underneath there, like not utensils, but like, crumbs and stuff like that. And so I'm looking around to see what I can do to try to make this a shorter surface without letting things in. And I've got these handy dandy skewers here. So what I'm going to do is actually use these skewers to score the cardboard inside of that peel and stick wallpaper, so that once it's scored, I can bend this piece of cardboard over and it'll be the height that I want. And it will also be, kind of like snowplow shaped, so the dirt can't get in on the snowplow side. I'm using my rolling pin here. Don't do that. I left a groove in the rolling pin. I don't think that was the moment I left the groove in the rolling pin. It's coming. I ended up switching for a slotted spoon that I'm not in love with later, but I've had this rolling pin for like 25 years, and now it's got a story to tell. So it goes to show us how often I use it, really. Not that often. And we fold it over. Is it going to work? That was the melody that I did while I was thinking this, just so you know. I don't have any audio on this recording because my family was watching a movie at the time, and I didn't want you to focus on that super excellent movie instead of me. Just kidding. Copyright reasons. Okay, there's that snowplow shape. Fold it up. Does it look kind of the right size? And yes, see, now I put that rolling pin in the very back of the drawer to represent how much I never use it. Safe and sound. I'm going to try a couple different methods to get the cardboard the vertical edge to stay up the way that I want it, because the first thing that I try doesn't work. So, you know, this whole time that I'm going along as I'm learning how to do this, I try one thing, and I'm going to try my first method on both sides. Stick those on. Fold it back into place. Stick it to the side of the cabinet, and I'm like, okay, that's gonna stick. No, it didn't stick. And it's not that that wallpaper isn't sticky, because that was my first thought. And you'll see me kind of like, I just checked to see if it was still sticky. I checked the tack on it. It was sticky. So that wasn't the problem. So what I've done is I've cut a little notch in this so that I can fold it over and create like this wings shape. And that worked, which is awesome. So we're just gonna double this up. So now we have made a couple of prototypes. We've got our second prototype for getting the cardboard to stick, and that worked. So now that we know how we're gonna build the cardboard dividers and how we're gonna get them to stick, we can speed this whole thing up. Pop that away. And here we go. This was really fun, actually. Just like kind of playing Tetris and seeing which things. Oh, see the stuff on the floor? There's actual utensils on the floor there. It still hasn't occurred to me that the floor is dirty and these are food items. It will occur to me later, I promise. So as I'm measuring things out, I'm going ahead and popping in new little constructions, getting things to fit. I use those spider sieves all the time. They're just incredibly handy. I use them instead of a colander, like when I blanch vegetables and stuff, which I do a lot because I like my vegetables crunchy and barely cooked at all. And I've basically put the stuff that I use the most right at the front of the drawer, and the stuff that I use less often toward the back and underneath. And it's just a matter of seeing like how I'm going to get everything to fit. I had one extra cardboard piece, so I cut that up. Oh, did you see that? Oh, that right there. You know what that is? That is a coffee break, because right at that moment, I got super overwhelmed again. And I learned somewhere in my mid 30s that when I was getting overwhelmed with a project, if I want to have any chance of finishing said project, I need to just stop and do something else and get like a real quality break. So that was probably 40 minutes of coffee and YouTube right there. But we're back to it. I'm all comfy in my one bare foot. Look at this. That thing is filthy. Like I'm rolling this plastic, you know, wallpaper covered cardboard. That was when it occurred to me that all this stuff is now tainted. Like when I was working on that second piece of cardboard and I slid it along the floor and I heard the sound of it sliding on the floor, I was like, oh, this is nasty. Shoot. You can't go back. I should have done it up there to begin with, but there's no such thing as perfect. You just got to do your best. And in this case, what I learned for next time is don't do this on the floor. The floor is dirty, nasty. Don't worry, it's going to get cleaned. I'm just going to edge up these little bits of plastic that are extra. And then I'm going to pause for a second and wonder, what exactly was I doing before I got distracted by the minutia? There we go. I still had another divider to put in. See, I told you it was all going to be better. I emptied the dishwasher, which is like a whole extra task here. I got everything loaded up. The dishwasher is running now. But I decided that this didn't look finished enough. I don't like that you can see the white at the bottom, and I thought it was going to be really hard to clean because there's no like bathtub shape at the bottom that you can wipe things out of. there's just this plow shape on one side of those cardboard bits, and I have a little bit more of this wallpaper left. So I'm just gonna eyeball it again. I don't measure things if I don't have to because there's a limited amount of stuff that my brain can accomplish in a day. And if I were to go and get a tape measure and come back and measure, and trust me, I would have to write down that measurement because I would forget it. But I'll just add here that I'm also dyslexic, so I cannot trust what I've written down. If it's really urgent for me to measure something, I usually just make a pencil mark on the actual tape measure. That's the safest way. Um, because, yeah, anything having to do with remembering numbers is not high probability of success. I just eyeball it. I gave a little bit of wiggle room so that I could get that kind of bathtub shape, or if it was from the wallpaper, rounding out and up to the sides of those cardboard supports. And it was fine. It was just fine. I think it actually looks pretty nice too. I aligned everything so that the stripes would mostly be going in that sort of front to back direction. I was pretty happy with it. So this is the first time I'm trying to get the bottoms put in with the wallpaper. So this is like what I would consider a new prototype, right? I've never done it before. I'm just going to try it out and see what works. And then if it works, I'm going to replicate it, which means I'm going to do it over and over again and hopefully learn something along the way. And this did work up until I got to that area for the spiders, the kind of colander scoop things. And when I tried to round that in, the wallpaper tore along that inside corner, which is a bummer. But again, I'm not here to be perfect because that doesn't exist. This is what I tell myself all the time because it's an improvement on when I was a kid and I just didn't do stuff, you know? I mean, I don't have any kind of neurodivergent diagnosis, but most of the people who know me will tell you that I just make a lot more sense if you assume that I am somewhere on the spectrum. And I'm entirely comfortable with that because I've figured out that if I read books on how to help people with ADHD or autism achieve skills or improve their executive functioning, it's full of tricks that work for me. I'll take it. I think that's awesome. And yeah, I think there are just a lot of opportunities. The people who I know who have neurodivergent disorders, they are deeply fascinated in the things that interest them, which could be a wide variety of things. I'm not saying that, like, people with neurodivergence are all some kind of like hyper focused savant. That has not been my experience. But if you want to have a really interesting conversation with somebody who's going to tell you a lot of facts and most of them are accurate, you know, get to know your people with autism and ADHD because they're deeply interested in the facts and they're deeply curious about those things. And my experience as a manager is that when people are deeply curious about the things that they're working on, they make awesome stuff happen. I totally just implied that I make awesome stuff happen. And I'm good with that. Sometimes I do. That's why I'm sharing this with you. I think it's pretty awesome. I'm so glad you get to see this with me. So here's what we started with, and this is improved.